you doing, Mike AM? It's a good day for a podcast. He said, yeah, let's do it. I said, fuck yeah, okay, let's do it. And that's how it happened, and it's happening now.
Okay, are we rolling?
Yeah.
Sick. Hello, listener. Hello, friend. Thanks for listening. We have another episode of podcasty goodness here for you with a guest, Elina Filice, a multi-talented singer, songwriter, music manager. Do you manage music?
I would say marketer.
Yeah. Music marketer, entrepreneur. In the midst of app developing, it's what else? Can you give us a bio? You just gave Eric and I a bio, but can you recite it word for word right now?
Sure. Thank you for that introduction. And thanks for having me. Yeah, it's great to be here. So short bio. My parents are Hamiltonians. I grew up overseas. They're teachers, so we moved around a little bit growing up. So was born in Hong Kong, lived in Saudi Arabia for a couple of years, and then Singapore for the bulk of my teen, adolescent years. Left Singapore when I was 18, moved here to Canada for university. I went to Mac, and then after university, went over to Dublin for a couple of years. Just kind of got into the music scene and artsy scene out there and really liked it. So I stayed for a couple of years, and then that's where I kind of dug into my own music and started building my business. And then 2020 pandemic year, moved back here to Canada. Moved out west last summer for a quick West Coast stint, and now I'm back in Hammertown.
Wowzers!
Yes, I know, it's a mouthful. But yeah, other than the geographical stuff, as you said, singer-songwriter, music marketer. Worked with a lot of independent artists and labels in the last couple of years, mostly on music marketing and release strategies, which we'll probably dig into at some point.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know anything about Singapore, although one of my favorite bands that I recently discovered, they're called Subsonic and I discovered them in the weirdest way. I was like looking at 12-string Rickenbackers.
Cool.
And this guy from Singapore was just like playing riffs on a 12-string Rickenbacker in his kitchen with like a crappy cell phone camera, and the riffs were really cool. And someone's I don't know if they said this like knowingly or what. I guess it would have to be a joke or not. Someone's like, "Oh, that looks like the guitar player from Subsonic Eye." And they're like, "Oh, it is that person." And I'm like, "Who's that? This riff is sick. Is that an original riff?" So I looked them up, and it's so good. And they sing a little bit in English. And what is the primary language spoken in Singapore?
English, and then depending on their background, it would be Malay or Chinese Mandarin.
Do you speak either of those?
I took a lot of Mandarin growing up, like all through high school and middle school. I was pretty good. But I've lost a lot of it in the last couple of years. Obviously.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So it was a local Singaporean band?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Subsonic Eye. They're like this sort of like dream pop indie rock type thing. Very,
cool.
Very high energy, but also chill at the same time.
Very cool.
I'd strongly recommend it. But we're going to talk about your music. Yeah. So one incredible feat, and partially there's many things that you can attribute this to. So much goes into making a successful song, and I'm making air quotes here because as Filipe, whose episode I asked one of our last guests, what is success? And he said the deepest thing, success is a word.
Wow. I like that.
Right? That's genius in how silly and obvious it is. So success is just a word.
Totally.
However, if you were to put a number like 1.3 million listens on a Spotify track, a lot of people would say that's pretty successful. How'd you do that?
I'll share my secret with you.
Well,
because-
let's start. The song slaps.
Yes, thank you.
The production's good. Do you produce or do you co-produce? Do you outsource and oversee?
I co-produce, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I bring like a rough mix. I record everything myself, so drums like this. I'm pounding on a keyboard with my fingers. Guitars, a lot of bass stuff. All vocals I record on my own, and then I bring it a rough mix to a producer. That one was produced by my friend Kevin in Dublin.
Shout out to Kevin.
But I've worked with a couple of producers, and that's usually how I do it.
Cool. But back to so after you write a kick-ass song, and then you get it produced in a way that it's coming out of speakers exactly how you pictured it in your head.
Which that one took over a year, by the way. For anyone feeling discouraged.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that, because I'm sure a lot of people have beaten themselves up over, similar or even faster.
I'm constantly discouraged.
Despondent even.
I live discouraged.
Callbacks.
Call back.
We're doing them.
Which episode's that from?
One that hasn't released yet.
There's a new word of the day. I'll whisper it to Eric.
Although it will have released by now if you're listening to this one, so I shouldn't have said that.
Yes.
Time travel.
Because time,
Time. We can only move one way through it for now.
In theory.
Anyways, sorry for interrupting with my sadness. Let's go back to success.
So let's get even more into the nitty gritty so before how long did writing that song take? Do you write and produce sort of at the same time? Do you write with demos, or is it paper? Where does a song start to be, I don't know, fertilized for you?
Usually for me, it starts with like a hook. That one actually started as two separate ideas. So the spoken word was kind of just like a train of consciousness, 3 a.m. kind of scribbles in my notes app. And then the kind of hook got in my head sometime after that. And then along with this kind of lo-fi beat. And then I thought they might kind of sound cool together. That was kind of the first venture in, I guess, a new sound for me. A little bit more of just like the spoken word kind of alternative R&B stuff. That I think that kind of dominates the sound of the EP, which Thinking of You was the first track off of. It all kind of carries through that like similar thread.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So we didn't say like a time that the song took to. Was it kind of an all at once thing? Some songs are like you look at it and you're like a day or two since you thought of it. Was it kind of one of those things where most of the song came to you at once, or did you labor over this one?
The songwriting was kind of quick. I think it's quite long, which is another reason I'm somewhat surprised at its Spotify success, because like you guys probably know, they say keep songs as short as possible these days. No one has attention spans to listen to you whine about your feelings anymore. But that's one of the things I've been saying to people, to just keep your authenticity, because pretty much everyone was telling me to cut it.
Oh, really?
But I'm like, because it is a long song, and it's a 30-second introduction, which in terms of streaming standards,
but you mean before the vocal kicks
before
in?
the vocal comes in, yeah.
It's not like an unrelated theme, though. I think it's all right totally to groove for a bit before.
But for pop music these days, that's like kind of unheard of.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah, that one, the songwriting came together, I guess, somewhat quickly, and then the demo also somewhat quickly, but. The production end, we definitely labored over. There's a lot of, I can send you the kind of the original version. It sounds quite different.
Did you re-record? Did you reset tempos, or where?
No, just like production layers, like
layering. Yeah,
like
I was gonna say
just like extra percussion, extra guitars, like extra vocals. Just like, we just kind of went crazy with it.
Well, in the end, there's like several of your vocals kind of dancing around one another there. So did that come out with that? When is that a element of production, or is that arrangement that you came into the production with?
All the vocal stuff, I think I had an idea of what I wanted, but yeah, I really am obsessed with like melody. So once we started getting into it, just all these different like melodies and riffs that were like would sound cool like sung rather than played kind of thing.
Okay, so a lot of artists don't even make it to that stage, but then many do. Many labor over the song or the 4-song EP for 1 to 5 years. Looking at both of us, me and Eric.
Audible silence.
And then this is the step where I think many artists, musicians, creatives drop the ball, let's say, where they make the thing and the next step is to move on to the next thing. But I have a feeling that your air quotes success will your numerical success stemmed from something other than just production and songwriting. What work did you put into making that happen?
Yeah, so I guess that's kind of where the release strategy stuff comes into play. It was still somewhat early in my music marketing journey then, but I had been like learning a lot and self-teaching a lot and whatever. And it was also early pandemic, so I did have a little more time than I thought I would. So definitely put a lot of work into the release and marketing of that particular track. Yeah, just kind of threw everything at it. Lots of content, lots of PR, lots of reaching out to contacts, lots of social media marketing. But I will tell you, because I definitely want to just, pull the curtain behind the numerical success. The song got put on a Spotify playlist, editorial called Butter.
Nice.
And it's actually been there for over 2 years at this point.
But the YouTube video has a hell of a lot of plays too.
That's true.
Are those bleeding over
true.
from Spotify, or are those? I mean, the video is also very professional and well thought out.
Yeah, totally. That was, I think, totally. Yeah, that was kind of an unexpected thing as well. I think
you were coming out at it from many different angles, like you have to.
Yeah.
And, just to clarify, I don't mean to diminish the songwriting in any way. I'm just trying to, I think it's something that a lot of musicians need to hear, that like their good song isn't enough to break through all the static.
Absolutely.
I hope I didn't come across as, condescending.
No, absolutely not.
Okay, cool.
And I think that's something that artists also need to hear as well, to detach yourself from the numbers, and that social media and marketing is a game, and it has nothing to do with really how good the content is. It's how well you can play the game. And so I think, yeah, a lot of as artists, we attach ourselves a lot to numerical success and that kind of outcome, when like your song is just as good and just as valid. And I know, like you probably come across songs that seem to have lots of traction and they're like kind of garbage. And songs that you probably have like a couple 100 or 1,000 streams where you're like, it's just something that's just a part of the social media age. And in this case, it was just honestly luck. And it's just luck that I think this song fits the genre of the playlist really well. I have never heard of a song being on an editorial for that long. So I think that's just luck, and I'm very grateful for the continued exposure that playlist has given me, because you really, like, if you tried to like buy that much exposure, like you just can't, so it's, I'm incredibly grateful for this support that Spotify has given me. Because yeah, like I said, just the amount of ears that it's reached without me having to put in any real effort is it's pretty incredible. So
I think there was some effort definitely put in before that.
totally, and ongoing, but
also very, very fortunate because in a lot of cases you can check all of the right boxes.
Absolutely.
And it's just not the right time for
Absolutely.
your song.
Yeah, to his point, like that's like it's kind of like earned and like organic like momentum, right? So
Exactly,
if it starts moving and then people are like, okay, well, they are doing something that you don't have to, do. You can start moving on to the next thing or whatever.
exactly.
So
yeah.
that's kind of nice, yeah.
And just for artists listening, it hasn't happened again yet that any one of my releases after that has been picked up. So it can happen, and then you think your foot's in the door, and Spotify's a beast like that. You know what I mean? It's just you can't really.
It's just this one little peak, and then the stats.
Yeah, but as you said, it's kind of checking boxes and then just doing your best, really, and seeing what happens. I think the music video was also an unexpected, like, second wave. Again, this was all like Thinking of You was like my second single or something. It was pretty early in my like official releasing career, but I guess I didn't expect the initial wave of releasing. Another reason release strategies are so crucial because that buzz around a release can be pretty short-lived. So a music video can be a good way to push a second wave of listeners and audience to a video or to a song. And that was definitely unexpected. The reaction to the video was, it was really strong and awesome. So that was probably a good push for it too.
What year was that release?
That was 2020, September.
That was 2020? Okay, so you had been working on it pre-pandemic, and then I feel like there was a lot of sort of like fuck it releases in that year where musicians were just like, I have this, I'm not going to get to do anything in the traditional sense that I'm used to anytime soon, and I just need to get it out of here.
Absolutely. And also because none of us were gigging, I like an opportunity to kind of learn more about the marketing and release side of things, because that's really all you could do was put stuff out on the internet for those like 2 years pretty much. So
would you say like most of what you've learned about that has been in that downtime, or had you already put in a lot of time into that music marketing strategy and gathering knowledge about that before then? Did you learn some of that in Dublin at the music school? Yeah,
that's definitely where it started. It started with kind of being surrounded by really incredible artists and really, really great music, especially the studio I was working out of with Kevin. Shout out Kevin. A lot of great artists releasing great stuff, but it just wasn't going anywhere. It wasn't like nothing was happening with it. So I started developing the release strategy probably maybe a year before Thinking of You came out, as a way to kind of address that problem that I saw was like artists having all the right kind of creative ideas, like all the music was in place, but there was just not a way that it was being released properly to give it the best chance of reaching an audience.
Does that type of organization come naturally to you? Or for me, people look at me and like the way I do things, they're like, oh, you're organized, but it's like it's an illusion based on how disorganized I am so are the lists and, the whole Drop Rocket app, which we'll get into, is that part of how you naturally are, or a learned mechanism to deal with how you aren't?
Yeah, I would say that's my brain kind of naturally works that way. I don't know if it's from having teacher parents or what, but I would say I'm very prone to like the project management and the stuff like that, like just really came easy to me. And I love like logic. I love like making things work. Like I love problem solving, and I love working with creative people because like they just have all the ideas, they have all the right ideas, and I just get to like put it in tiny boxes and say like, how are we actually going to get there? And like being kind of the champion of those ideas by like helping them kind of do what they want to do.
Awesome. Okay, so I guess how old are you?
I'm 27. Had to think about
20. You always do, right? the insurance guy told me today that it's my birthday in 11 days. And I was like, oh shit, look at that. Almost 33.
Nice.
So,
Like Jesus.
oh no.
You are a lot like that.
Something really bad happened to him, if I recall, around that time.
Or good. I don't know. It
the
depends on how
whole
you look
Transcendence thing. I'm just,
Becoming God thing.
He was always...
It all stems back to metamorphosis of Narcissus.
We'll never not bring up metamorphosis of Narcissus on the podcast.
Yeah, I feel like you have to connect it back at least once per episode.
Realized while I was pointing, I'm like, oh yeah, this I can't like describe a point. So
I overdub it for the for the visually impaired, which is everyone, because there's no video unless you subscribe on Patreon.
Eric's dumb. He's pointing again. Descripted audio.
What the hell were we talking about?
Sorry about that.
There's Drop Rocket, birthdays.
You were talking about kind of like organizing in lists and stuff, and how that kind of
let's go to the we cut off a tangent with another tangent, but let's get on to the main thread,
right,
which is Drop Rocket. So you notice that that's why I asked how old you are. So when you're, let's say, 10 years younger, when you're 17, maybe you're making music, maybe you're collaborating with musicians, but you're trying to figure out how you are. You're not busy recognizing patterns in your collaborators and stuff. Like, you may notice things, but after 10 years, you're like, oh, I'm like really organized compared to the average musician. And then you start seeing people who, if they were just a little bit more organized or a little bit more goal-oriented or could kind of zoom out to see everything they need to do, where their good song that they spent 1 to 5 years producing can actually, have a chance to be heard by some people. Like they have the song, but they're missing this. And I have that. So you had this downtime and you started making Drop Rocket. Or I guess before that, you is it Red Vine Records? Is that?
Yeah.
So you, before Drop Rocket, you made your own record label to release your own material, right?
Yeah. So Red Vine is kind of the parent company that these 3 projects kind of lie under. So yeah, Red Vine's the umbrella, and under it lies like my own consulting. So my own one-on-one consulting with artists and labels. Drop Rocket, this project, and then as well as Elina, Filice music. But they all kind of fall under the Red Vine umbrella.
Okay. Cool. So Drop Rocket is, maybe it's like a tool. It's like a DIY tool that people can access, download, and I entered a lot of it. I'm working on a release. Leo, my collaborator for that, Leo Dragtoe, was on the show last week, which was it was actually last week, but I shouldn't have gotten time travel.
Again, it's going to be last week.
Yeah.
Whenever this comes
It will
out.
have been 2 weeks ago compared to when people are hearing me say it. But it will be last week to any dedicated listener.
Wow, we could really use some management here, man. But anyways.
So anyway, I also have my own systems, but I was like, what an opportunity to, let's open up one of these templates in Drop Rocket and enter everything in there. And, for someone who has no schooling on this is incredible, right? Because
you checked it out.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Cool,
Exactly.
awesome.
Like we input it as if we're doing the whole release like through that. Right. So it is customizable, but it comes with one template, and also kind of there's videos as well, going more in depth into each thing. And don't know. Can you tell me a bit more about that? What functionality may I have overlooked, or what?
Yeah, well, I'll kind of tell you a bit about how Drop Rocket came to be. So I was working, in release strategies, as we've been discussing for a couple years now. But its original form was in like a series of Word documents. So just not very interactive, not very customizable. And I really wanted to build this tool that people could actually use. And they could use it, and they could keep track of their own releases, just like I was doing with my own releases, with my own release strategy. So yeah, I kind of was like, when will I have time to undertake this very complicated project that I, with no coding background, have no idea how to do? So I was working at a label based out of Montreal. That label kind of went into a different direction, so I was kind of maybe like, this is kind of maybe my moment. This was last summer when COVID was kind of still hanging around. So yeah, dove into this project and was really intimidated at first because I was like, what if I spend all this time and all this money like building this thing and nobody likes it and nobody uses it? And I remember like crying to my brother over this, and he was like, you just go on to the next thing. And I'm like, wow, what a nice thought. Like true. Like I probably would have learned a couple things and I'll just like try something else.
Failure is just a word. You're like, oh yeah.
There you go. Yeah, failure is definitely how you see it. But I definitely see this as my life's work, and just working with creative people, especially musicians, because they are my people. I'm one of them, and just releasing music is very hard. There's a lot of different moving parts. It's a very complex project. A lot of things can fall through the cracks. There's just an impossible amount of things to remember. And the idea is to have a process, have a strategy, have a proven process that you follow every time, so that every release can get better and bigger and grow your business. I think what a lot of artists don't realize is if you self-release, you are your own label. You represent yourself. And the number one thing a small label needs is a process for releasing music. That is your number one process. And so this is it. This is easy to use project management software. Project management software can be notoriously complex. And I just wanted something, because we're all artists here. Like, artists can be lazy and kind of dumb. So I just wanted something, we're all pointing to ourselves. So I just wanted something really easy to use, and something that artists can use every time to balance their release with other parts of their career and their life. So I started working with a developer, and I designed everything. The developer did all the clicky, and Drop Rocket was launched in March. Yeah. That's
so cool.
Yeah.
And any success stories to report, or is it too young at the moment?
It's a couple. Pretty much everyone I've talked to about it has been excited about it and seen the potential of it. I think now the challenge is just getting people interested. And getting people kind of engaged with it. There's so much out there on the internet. There's a million different ads trying to catch your attention. So now the challenge is just finding, but I'm trying to like narrow my scope from every independent artist ever. Like, this is really for people who want to build a business around their music, for people who are serious about kind of growing their business, and serious about their releases, because it's a core part of your year when you're an independent artist. It's a core part of your marketing plan are your releases. And yeah.
In terms of like app development, did you outsource that to somebody? How did you do that? Like, is you like freelance? Like, is it like a freelance developer or?
So we built it on a platform called Bubble. I don't know if either of you guys are into clicky stuff, but
really.
There's a new kind of wave of no-code / low-code app development. So what that is it's a lot of drag and drop. It's a lot of like back-end workflows, and almost none of it was actually coded.
So it would work in a similar fashion to how like Squarespace works for web development,
exactly.
Right? So it kind of it's in the code to code itself based on how you drag and drop.
Exactly. So
Okay.
something like Wix, Squarespace is front end, Bubble is front end and back end and data structure.
Cool.
So full stack development with no code.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Really cool.
So yeah, I found a developer who was able to do all the actual Bubble development because, yeah, didn't want to learn how to code. I have enough going on.
I hear that. But part of you wanted to learn to code it yourself.
Yes,
didn't?
because I'm a control freak and I hate relying on other people. Okay.
But that worked out fine.
It worked out great.
Relying
Yeah,
on
the
that
guy who helped me build it, his name's Jeremy. Shout out Jeremy.
Shout out to Jeremy.
He's been awesome. He is super lovely to work with. Really believes in the project and helping people, which is the goal.
Fantastic. Oh my gosh, that is...
Mm-hmm.
So, how did that feel, like, putting that out? When did you know it was done? I mean, obviously, like, it's like an app is never done. You're always kind of like listening to feedback and then, modifying it. But how did you know it was ready to go live?
I knew because my goal was to have a really strong beta version. They call it an MVP, minimum viable product. The current version isn't that. It's a bit past an MVP because I wanted it to be clean and well-functioning. I wanted people to have a good first impression of using it. But it essentially had all like the necessary components, I think, for a first version. So it obviously had the template, as you mentioned, really in-depth task descriptions on each task, as well as some videos explaining tasks in more detail. It had the calendar, which I really liked because I'm such a visual person, especially when you're planning a project. It's sometimes helpful to see it visually, especially for planning social media stuff. Like, make sure you're telling a story with your socials. It had a few resources like that, the video database and other things. So those are like the core components that I wanted in the first version. Of course, we have so many ideas of features we want to add. But my goal was to put it out in the world and see if people like it, and see if it warrants further investment. Because I really had to see if there was an audience, if there was a demand for the project first, to see if it's like to justify kind of investing more into it. But there's so many other things that I kind of want to add and do.
Oh, are you able to say what kind of things you're looking forward to developing on it? Yeah,
sure. Well, the main thing is it's a web app right now, so it means it'll work in any web browser. So eventually I'd like to have a phone app that actually is in the App Store. I'd like to add like some team components, just a lot of like different features that I think would, just other like project management features.
Does adding an app to an app store increase your mobile engagement? I guess that's probably an obvious answer, but more so than like driving people to a web app on mobile.
I think so. We wanted it to be pretty like phone responsive, like mobile responsive. That was definitely part of it because we know how the world works now. Most people are using their phones for stuff.
Sure.
So it works fine in the web browser right now on a phone, but eventually, an app just gives you more ability to kind of interact with your users. And
that's what. Because like there's some apps that I'll download. Like let's say even if it's for like a local restaurant or like a local chain, and then you'll use like the web app, and then it'll say, okay, download this on your phone. And you're like, okay, well I order from them enough, I'll download it. And then you download it, and it literally feels like it just pulls the web app basically into like the application on your phone.
Yeah.
So from that standpoint, to me, in that scenario, it doesn't feel so different. So it's like, why did I download this or whatever? Aside from having it on your phone and the convenience of it being right there, right? But
that's what we were kind of thinking, which is.
But I was just wondering, like if that does drive your engagement up on mobile, just to have like it as its own standalone app in the App Store, and I guess it would. Like, I guess that does make sense, right? So I was just wondering,
Yeah.
I think for me to even just have an exact replica of the web app in a standalone app is very compelling for something that's productivity focused, because there's so much shit that's designed to steal your attention.
Right.
in something else. So if you've got 15 Google tabs open and you're just in one of them, like, now I'm reading about, some war in some far off country that I'll never visit, and getting stressed out about that. And like, whoops, it's been half an hour. I didn't gather my what do you call it, release assets, or I didn't look for press contacts. Oops. So just having that like singular app where you open the app, and even if it's an exact replica of the web app, I'm sure would be helpful just in that sense.
Absolutely.
So what does it take to? I'm sure you've looked into that.
You guys know what it takes. It takes one thing, buddy. And that's cold hard cash.
Yeah, true.
That is all anything in the world takes, really. You can have anything you want in this world.
A lot of bread.
It just takes money. Yeah. I like all these things are totally doable, all the features we want to add and whatever. Like I said, I just want to, like, for the next couple of months, that's my goal, just to see, like, do people like the idea? Like, is it resonating with people? If I continue to invest in it, is that like a thing that people are going to want in the future? So,
yeah.
A lot of artists and art enjoyers really glorify what's the word? Non-materialism or whatever. Mm-hmm. How, as someone who's hustling out there trying to, actually make a living as an artist, what a crazy thing to get good at something over the course of 15 years and expect any sort of living wage off of that. Mm-hmm. Have you run into any haters who are like, oh, Elina makes all right music, but she's too focused on the grind or whatever? Do you run into any? My friend, a friend of mine who's a session bassist, who recently transitioned into another line of work and is extremely happy.
Wow. Okay.
And he was
fuck you. I'm just kidding.
You're taking money away from me by starting a new job, motherfucker. He was raging against the
machine.
Oh. No. he was like, being part of the machine is not so bad. He was raging against his musician friends' quote, broke dick mentality, end quote.
Nice.
Thoughts?
I have two thoughts. The first thought is kind of on your initial question, is how I run into haters. I actually don't mind the haters. What I think hurts more is the apathy. Like, me sending like people, friends, acquaintances, music or the app or whatever, and just like nothing, like, or like people close to, and we as musicians know you like slave over these fucking tracks, and then like it's a silence, Silence is worse than hate, for sure. Because hate means they listen to it. Hate means they checked out the app and they think it's garbage. Like, that they clicked on it, they gave me traffic.
I don't care what you think as long as it's about me. Fall Out Boy.
There you go. At least they're engaging. But it's more like the apathy. But that's kind of, I think, the zeitgeist of the moment is there's just so much going on that engaging with anything is just so much effort.
But the pursuit of this type of success, trying to get your song plays instead of just being this starving artist who relishes in their own starvingness and how underappreciated they are and how good they are,
just
and nobody even
your own
knows
poverty.
it.
Yeah. Nice. That's actually been a big part of my kind of consulting, or just my ethos for the past couple of years, is changing people's mindsets from starving artists to creative entrepreneur. Because I feel like once you make that mindset change, like everything else can change. Because once you realize that your problems aren't unique just because you're a poet, you realize that anyone who's ever tried to get any creative idea off the ground, like any entrepreneur, any business, has faced the same problems, and that those problems have been overcome. So, and they can be overcome. So I think that mindset switch is also very empowering, because yeah, you're an entrepreneur. You grind for a couple years. You're just a creative entrepreneur, which is the best kind of entrepreneur, I think. So I think I don't love the starving artist thing. I don't love like the glorifying your own pain kind of thing. Obviously I do it all the time, but but I think the mindset change is really empowering.
Yeah, I think that there is a little bit of just an innate benefit to having like the starving artist mentality, and that you have the motivation to write a good song sometimes, or even when with comedians, like the most broke people sometimes are the best joke writers. It is what it is, right?
Totally. Or in a band, this first album is like so raw and so real. And then once they get the success they've been pining for the whole time, like the music's like shitty and unrelatable. It happens all the time.
Right. It's true.
Like they wrote it at their most desperate. Like literally the rent was due.
Now all the songs are about how rough it is, like being in a hotel and like bored between sets, which is a grind, but it's not a relatable grind to 99% of your audience. When you're Bruce Springsteen being like, I want to get out of this town, then Bruce is better than that. I'm sorry, man. But that's what all of his songs are about, right? I'm born to run, and then it's like I'm making $1 million, and it's like I wish I was in my beach house in Miami.
Right. And even when they get big, their biggest songs are still pandering to like lower middle class people, right? Trying to relate to their problems. Like
that's that might be worse. I don't know than the tour song, like the working 9 to 5 song when you have, artists work hard though.
Totally.
Like I some of them, and there is like this vision of music success where you do your own thing and you avoid growing up at all costs.
Peter Pan style.
It's exactly Peter Pan. There's a great, I've brought it up before, I'll bring it again, and Neil Strauss, author of The Dirt, in another book, he said the one thing he was a Rolling Stone writer too. The one thing every rock star has in common is a complete inability to do anything for themselves. So there is this vision that was especially prevalent in like the golden age of record companies, where they would like find this gifted person who just their whole life is about their music, and they're like, wow, this guy's a fucking idiot. He'll sign anything.
Yeah.
And they get that person and they make them a star. They let them be Peter Pan.
Right.
And it usually ends pretty badly, and maybe they like smarten up. Most of the legendary musicians, like some of them grow out of it, like Elton John, I think matured very well, and
but
a lot of them
later.
just exactly, a lot of them burn out, and many of them like suffer a lot along the way and realize, in their mid 30s 40s, they're like, oh, I'm a child, I don't know how to do anything. So would you say it's like a pretty freaking cool thing that people can kind of like take their destinies in their own hands now? It's a totally, the internet age is different from the golden age of records.
Absolutely.
In a good way, if you find the ways that it's good.
Absolutely. And I say that there's never been a better time to release music independently than right now. Never. Like there's never been less gatekeepers to releasing music, recording music, finding an audience, promoting music. There's never been a better time. But the challenge is like just because of that, like the sheer volume, like cutting through the noise. But if you're gonna cut through the noise and if you're gonna be successful, like you do like need to treat it like a business, and you do need to like have a structure like this, like the one that Drop Rocket can give you. I think a big part of my kind of advocacy as well has been empowering artists in the sense of teaching them about the industry and really promoting like understanding the industry that you're in, because it's a tale as old as time is artists get presented with bad deals and they sign bad deals with anybody, managers, labels, whatever, and that kills the dream. So I think empowering artists with that kind of knowledge and because a lot of labels and manager and whatever, they don't want you to understand royalties. They don't want you to sign contracts. Like, they want you, as you said, like they want you to be the Peter Pan that they can kind of manipulate and whatever. So empowering artists with that knowledge, I think, is really important.
Heavy. Where do we go from there? I have notes. I haven't looked at them yet. If I've been doing a good job, I've covered like half of this already. And if I've been doing a bad job,
I think you've been doing a good
I've
job.
covered all of it. Oh, do you remember the first song you ever wrote?
I don't think so, but where I'm staying is my family's summer place, and I was just cleaning out a drawer and found like lyrics, and I must have been really young, and it was kind of a nice moment of like, wow, like I've been doing this a long time, and I think a thought that I have to remind myself is like 5-year-old me would be pumped at like how kind of far I've come, where 27-year-old me is like constantly, comparing myself to my peers and getting down and feeling like I should always be doing more. But like 10-year-old me would be stoked right now, like,
about who 27-year-old you is?
Yeah, and like we have our own songs, like we've played music around the world, like, you know what I mean? I just, have to remember that.
How do you go about like, this is not a lot of people have traveled and been in as many places as you, but that's your only perspective. Like it must be, I mean, I don't know if, like, what's it like to think about being in one place for decades? Is that idea frightening, or?
I think I often romanticize like being from somewhere. I'm like, that could be nice. I think at some point, like, I wouldn't mind settling a little more. But my parents, I don't think have lived an unsettled life. Like, they've always had, each other and jobs and whatever, but they've never like stopped traveling.
My wife has a knack for making like any place we're in, even if we're staying at like, an Airbnb or like we get a camping spot, like she turns that into home for like, Crystal, we're only here for like 11 hours. Like, why are you setting all this shit up? But then like you're in it. You're like, wow, I'm at home right now.
I love
so
that.
I can imagine what you're talking about with your, that you can feel settled in many different places.
Yeah, totally. Depending on who you're around. And I think it's like anything, right? Like, the more you see, the more you realize how much there is to see. Or like the more you read or listen to, the more you realize like how much really is out there. So it definitely becomes an addiction, a bug, as they say.
Oh, yes. So how do you go about, dealing with the when you're crossing borders and playing music, and how does one even get started? If you're going to play somewhere else, you need permits and stuff like that. Will there be a drop rocket thing for tour type stuff as well? Are you planning tour templates?
Yeah, absolutely. I want to definitely build templates. I want to do like a more general to-do template, like maybe like a monthly checkup template. Definitely want to do like a tour template. Yeah, definitely it's a lot of research. Most of my like stints have been when I've been like living somewhere. So when I was living in Dublin, I played a good amount in Ireland and Northern Ireland. Kind of like when I'm traveling, I'll just do like small gigs and open mics and opening slots and whatever. On
the hush hush. Don't tell. We'll cut this part out too.
Definitely don't say it here.
There's a CIA van outside.
I mean, like, everybody does that, dude.
Yeah.
Who gives a shit?
Yeah, I know a lot of Canadian bands who tour in Europe and
just don't tell anyone about it.
Well, we live in an industry that cash is pretty king, like,
yeah,
and you can like Canadian passport is a pretty good one to travel on.
It's so weird though, because it's like when does it even become business, right? Because if like a guy sees, like a border guy sees a guitar, he'll be like, "What do you do?" And it's like, "I'm a musician." And they're like, "Are you doing music here? Are you can't prove that you're not making money doing music." But it's not illegal to just play your guitar in another country. And then if there's a bunch of people watching you, that's fine.
And if someone hands you an envelope, then you didn't know that. Well, you didn't know anything about that.
Know that was going to happen.
Exactly. But I think, like, to that point, I think so much of like this industry just crosses that like art to business border, and I think, like, as you guys probably know, like it just does cause problems. And like when you have artists or a band who's sharing costs and whatever and contracts and royalties, and like the art to business line is like very complex and very blurry. And yeah, that's a big part of like what I do, is helping people navigate that. Contracts are king. That's how you avoid problems in the future. Having honest communication about royalties and rights and educating yourself about that kind of thing. Like that's how you build your business, and that's how you stay friends with your bandmates, and your managers and whatever.
Does your app make kind of quick work of learning those things, like, or do you have plans to implement stuff that makes it basically like Cole's notes on how to like successfully like sign contracts, make them effective for everybody involved, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I think it's a distribution section of the Drop Rocket template is a part about contracts. And I actually do have some templates that people can download and customize.
Oh, cool.
I'm not a lawyer. This is not legal advice, but I can recommend things for people to do and encourage people to meet with me or a lawyer. Because once you wrap your head around it, it's not rocket science, but it can be the difference between your band staying together and not. So.
The envelope thing was legal advice, though, right? Everyone should do that.
Absolutely.
What about like grant stuff? Do you have stuff for grants as well? Like let's say if like a Canadian artist or somebody was wanted to get like some kind of government grant or something like that, you have that on there too, or you have a plan to kind of?
Yeah, absolutely. Plans to like I always want to keep growing the template, but that's actually something I need to do more learning about myself. Just having not like spent just haven't spent a lot of time in Canada in the last couple of years, I guess. But there's so much like out there. It's just it's time consuming to find it. But there definitely is stuff out there. I think I would be more like I'm more focused on once people get this money, like how do we actually like launch the album successfully, right?
For sure.
Like because we have this money, we have this opportunity, we actually maybe have a marketing budget now. Like how can we use it in the best possible way? And definitely one of the best ways is spending $5 a month on this app so you can manage all your projects at once.
Good pitch. Very good pitch. But
sorry, I had to get that in there.
Yeah.
We were saying in this industry, especially in like the live industry, cash is king. And so when you're starting out as like a 4-piece band that makes $22 a night and spends twice that on pizza,
beer,
on the night of, all right, 5 times that on the show, there's no need for bookkeeping at that point. But so when is an artist or a band ready to like register a business? Maybe think about, is this band a business or is it under a record label? Do we run the record label? Do we make our priority to look for a record label? Because that kind of like that when that cycle kind of snowballs itself and the band's still doing these cash gigs and they're that kind of keeps them on their Peter Pan shit, right? So what signs should a band or artist look for that they're maybe ready to like grow up and be like a real musician or like a real make a career of this?
So I think any time anybody starts making investments into the project, that's a business, and that's when you should.
I was at a poetry slam yesterday. They said, you go,
That's when you should start like bookkeeping, and it doesn't have to be fancy. It's literally an Excel sheet where you're keeping track of costs, communal costs. So like that's if someone is like paying for a record to be cut or for rehearsal time or whatever. Like I really think keeping track of costs just avoids conflict down the road. Yeah, I think, yeah. And especially if a manager is involved, they're often investing into the project, also taking a cut, 20% usually of everything. So I think just getting in the habit of doing those kind of things as early as possible in the project can make it so that you're creating those healthy habits before, and then when money hopefully actually does start coming in, those structures are already in place. And you don't have to like try to think about 3 years back, like who did this and who did what, you know what I mean?
Right. So, okay. So some people might be thinking this isn't pulling in any real money. There's no need for this. But on the flip side, there's money being spent on it. And what, like maybe a guitar is a purchase that the guitar player uses in the band, but they would have bought that anyway.
Yeah, that's like a personal expense.
But like a cab that doesn't fit in their apartment, that's too loud to, use in the apartment, that they buy to play gigs with the band, that's maybe something to talk about. And then when there's multiple people involved, you can start kind of talking about these types of investments. And then something like, an asset like photography or music, then that's 100%, an expense for that project. So you can already start keeping track of that stuff instead of blindly being like, I want to make this thing happen. Now this thing happened. And the money's there and you're not worrying about it. But, if you had like a tally sheet, instead of like getting into this big debate about what went out, you can pull that up and like, oh, this was exactly this much money that was put in by whoever.
Exactly.
So then for like an independent artist, how is it different?
Well, I think that is like what independent artists should do. Like,
sorry, not like unsigned,
on my own.
like a one person show.
Solo. Yeah, same thing. I try to keep track of my own costs, all my costs. I think, budget tracking it's a good habit, like I said. I think when you have more members in a band, it can be nice because you can share costs. But one of the good things about being solo is you never fight about money, because I think it's really easy for resentment to build. People in bands are
we talking negative self-talk? Can that count as fighting? Because
I'll
do a fair bit of that.
Absolutely. But I think, usually like the person who's investing the most, that resentment can build over time. So I think it's just kind of keeping track of stuff, because that's really like equity in the business, like as it were, is the most people who are investing the most at risk contributions are the people who have the most equity in the business. So when it does come time to incorporate or to get outside investors or things like that, we don't have to fight about who owns what in the project. Like we can see like who's invested. We've all maybe invested the same amount of time, but who's invested the amount of money, equipment, whatever. And that's, and then you can kind of move forward.
So even the most right-brained of singer-songwriters who, just drift through the world, if they're making music and spending money on their own music, the second they hear this podcast, they should start maybe keeping track of their assets and expenses.
Probably their life in general. I mean, like the reality is, like if you start doing this for a band, you're gonna realize how great it is to do it in your own life.
Probably,
as well.
It's liberating, right?
Like every time you spend some money, write it down or put it in an Excel sheet or, Google Docs or whatever it is. Like I can't remember what it's called on the Google level, like Sheets or something like
Yeah.
that. But either way, like you can share, like you can share like a shared Excel kind of sheet with like your whole band and stuff. And like you said, every time you have an expense, just put it in.
Exactly.
Take the 5 minutes, put it in, and then hit the bong.
Yeah.
And then and you know what I mean. Then you're in a better place, like months, years, a decade down the line.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
And you still hit the bong. You just got a little bit of paperwork done beforehand.
And you feel productive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're floating on positivity.
Instead
Yeah.
of having an anxiety attack, you get to, like relish in how much you've grown up. You're like, wow, look at that. I opened a spreadsheet and input 2 data points on that. Aren't I an entrepreneur?
And I think I hope a lot of people who listen to this, well, maybe they've skipped through this music businessy part, but I think this is awesome. I think if creative people have more of these kind of entrepreneurial conversations, like conversations like these pretty much never come up.
This is a huge
has never
part.
happened.
This is a huge part of why I wanted to have you specifically on the show, because when my friend was giving his broke dick musician mentality speech, I was like, right, because I'm not into glorifying like creating no value for people, and like, yeah, capitalism is fucked up in so many ways. However, it's where we are. It is the ecosystem right now, and you can be creating like these win-win situations where you can create something that helps people, and they can give you something that represents value that they've produced for other people, and then that can help them get their thing to more people, and spread some joy there. So 20, 50 people have won off of this one interaction, right? There's nothing bad about that. I could argue that there's some things that are bad about not doing anything and making great music that no one will ever hear, because you just are like, no, the music industry is broken, only like whatever, it's all about image. I was like, get one of your artist friends to draw something cool. You don't, there's a million ways around this, and just keep doing it. Yeah, fucking life is hard, but you gotta.
Before the podcast started, we were talking about like house music. A lot of those people, there's no face to the music.
Totally.
Like
Marshmallow.
it's all
that guy's like a billionaire,
right? Or
he's
even,
like 17.
or like there's like more like IDM side. Like I listened to I think it's just a guy that produces it for Ted. I don't know if you've heard of them, but like it's all just like, I don't know if they're, I don't know what he looks like.
Exactly.
I just know what his album covers and stuff look like. So to your point, like hire, and also you're putting money into the pocket of either somebody that is a friend or a freelance artist, right? So it's kind of like you're passing it around or whatever, right? So,
and that's when, sorry to cut you off, but that's where capitalism works. When all of the money's rotated, when someone sits on a pile of it like a dragon, that's when shit gets fucked up, because people are like, can I have some of that? No, it's all mine. But when you're just like fucking making this like tornado, when you're making it rain, literally, and people are just fucking throwing the money around, it's a good time.
And I just want to give a disclaimer as we're talking about the music and the business. I'm as anti-capitalist as they come. Like I don't want your audience to go off and rip people off and whatever. Like I truly think that there is an ethical way to do business. I think you can build a strong business. I think you can build one that supports your life so that you don't have to get a day job. I think like the only way to do what you love, to fulfill to pursue your passion full time, is to make your passion into a business. So, but I think that business can be ethical. I think it can give back to the world. I think it can make you and the people who work for the business very happy. I do think there's ethical ways to do business. And yeah, I just want your listeners to know that I am a very anti-capitalist person.
Can you elaborate on that? Or no?
Sure.
Sure.
How? Yeah.
Well,
but I was gonna say, like, the whole like putting like let's go back to like putting an expense into like a spreadsheet, right? For the band. It's like the intention shouldn't be that eventually that's going to save you and fuck the other person, right?
Exactly.
It should be so that everybody is like mutually benefited and you all know, you know, where the dot is. You like that's where we are, you know? And that makes it easier to create and get the money out of the picture because it's all just set.
Exactly.
It's a tool to navigate a capitalist landscape that you have no choice but to be in.
Well, the other thing too is like, okay, yeah, anti-capitalism, but then what?
Yeah.
You know, a lot of it is, well, I don't like capitalism. Okay, but then what?
Yeah.
You know, and like at the end of the day, we're all existing in like some type of system, right? So it's like,
it's better to exist in a system.
Yeah, right.
I mean, like Rage Against the Machine for sure.
Yeah,
like the things that are bad about the machine, but like ants make ant hills and stuff. Imagine just ants just being like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Running around.
But and then your individual or group mentality becomes stronger by like actually adopting like a principle or like or some way of working, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Absolutely. And on your point to the spreadsheet, a mutual understanding that we're taking this seriously, that we want to build something here. And in order to do that, like we need some structures in place and we need some understanding of how this is going to run. And anti-capitalists and then what is, working together, having common goals, like pooling our resources and not just our financial resources, and doing stuff. Yeah.
Is that a privilege of like well-functioning capitalism though, to like pool our resources? Everyone has their own resource and the option to pool them, right? Isn't that functioning within capitalism, or am I misunderstanding?
I feel like it's becoming like a dirty word more than anything. It's like people get like locked up into like one term being a bad thing.
It doesn't have to be Jesus or Satan.
Right.
It can just be a word that means what it means.
Yeah.
Or that describes how we're functioning currently. Right? I mean...
Yeah, and I mean, like, you know, socially, over time, we evolve, right? So it might be called something else, or like the way that society functions might have... Like, we live in at least on our side of the globe, we live in a capitalist society, so it's like that's what it's called, but it might evolve into something else that we don't know of, or whatever the like, you know, whoever like pitches the term, and that's what it is. It's hard to know that shit, right? But I mean, at the end of the day, it's just a word for how we function and how our society functions on this side of the globe, anyways.
But it does dictate like a lot of our lives. Like our brains are so like just wired into capitalism and post-colonialism, and
I hate that, to be honest. And I like, that's for a lot of creative types, that's, you know, like an avoidance mechanism. I think like I'm not going to be part of that, and so maybe that stops them from, you know, getting a Drop Rocket subscription.
Totally.
They're like, I'm just gonna. It's like the creative process is like a dissociative thing. Mm-hmm. It's not helping. It's avoiding something else.
But I think that's why, like, I think kind of separating those pursuits is really helpful. Like, I think when you're in the songwriting recording zone, that's a totally like free-form creative space that's like really meant to serve your inner soul and whatever. And then I think once you get the song, how you like are happy with it, then the marketing brain is a totally different brain. Like, and I think once a lot of people get to that other side, they're like shy away from it really quickly. But I think a lot of artists would be really good at that marketing thing because they have like the really creative ideas and how to connect with people and a lot of like the visual stuff that comes with music and whatever. So I think just making it accessible and giving people like a roadmap to follow and some kind of structure that they can then put all their own crazy ideas into. I think that's kind of the goal here.
Let's talk a little bit about music before we play some music.
Cool.
On your Spotify bio, say singer, songwriter, storyteller, rapper. Who? And I wrote this down. Who are some of the greats in those fields to you? So we can break it up into 4. Who's you don't have to talk super long, but who comes to mind immediately when you think top tier singer or top tier in your own heart at least?
Well, singer songwriter I think would be like Joni Mitchell and Neil Young are my faves. Both Canadian. But
Neil Young has denounced us a long time ago, but sure.
we won't focus on that.
Speaking of capitalism, there's a guy who's very anti-capitalist in his own words, yet has a deal with like the most evil corporation in the world.
Yeah, and there comes a certain point where put $1 on anything, and that's what I like to. That's how I sleep at night. Old Neil. Someone put $1 on something and you couldn't turn it down. But anyways,
with Neil Young,
with Uncle Neil.
Oh, I still love Uncle Neil, but I can't. He's got a little bit of the old man yells at cloud going these days.
So I would love him,
but no one can take any of those live at the BBC or Harvest. No one could take those away from us.
Mm-hmm. Like both like songwriters that I look up to.
You mashed singer songwriter together?
I did, yeah, I mashed it.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
What would they because like Leonard Cohen might be like a top songwriter.
Mm-hmm.
One might not think of him immediately as a great singer.
Yeah.
But yeah, certainly Joni Mitchell is in the running for the best singer-songwriter
ever.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan. Big fan. I think she's always done her own thing and been authentic and said the shit she wanted to say and like criticized the music industry at every opportunity and just still been able to reach a lot of people and be really authentic to herself. Even Neil. I don't think he's the best singer out there, and I was actually listening to him on the way over. But still, the songs like have touched so many people, and yeah, I think people forgive you certain things if you can write songs like that. So,
who's a storyteller you look up to?
I don't know.
You can take a minute. It doesn't have to be a musician.
True.
Maybe it's not. Maybe you're looking to embody Quentin Tarantino, but as a songwriter.
Yeah, or like F. Scott Fitzgerald.
Is that
really like the way that he like conveys images and kind of ideas and feeling and kind of creates characters.
Hunter S. Thompson used to retype books by F. Scott Fitzgerald because he felt like if he could get the rhythm of his words into his hands, it would flow out of him the way F. Scott Fitzgerald wrote. I always thought that was interesting, and I do that myself. If there's like a particularly beautiful song that's sticking in my head, I'll write out the lyrics and just to feel what it feels like to write a song that beautiful.
I like that. Yeah, I'll do that too with songs. Like I'll learn it on guitar and sing it.
I did it with Rainbow Connection recently. You know that one? Kermit the Frog sings it in the first Muppet movie.
Oh my god!
Why are there so many songs?
You're expecting to say like Tame Impala or something.
And what's on the other side?
That's funny.
Who's the best rapper?
No one's gonna like my answer.
Yes.
Do you guys know No Name? She's an amazing rapper, and the reason
I do somewhat.
I'm a big fan is she combines a lot of the spoken word and rap stuff, and she's just really unique. Definitely my favorite, like one of my favorites.
Very cool. So how do you bring that all together in your music? I mean, I've heard it. People can hear it. People can go to Spotify or YouTube, type in Elina Filice and hear for themselves. But was there a time of like mass assimilation where you're covering a lot of stuff, and how have you grown to take these influences and make them your own and speak these languages of singing and songwriting and rapping and storytelling?
Yeah, I think definitely my music has a strong storytelling element. That's always been a big part of it for me, kind of telling my own story, other people's stories, like authentic queer stories, travel stories, etc. I think, I've been kind of always pushing myself in terms of like genre blending, so never really wanting to it's like really hard to kind of describe what kind of music I play, because I don't really know. You tell me. That's what I usually say. I never really want to get...
I have a hard time with it too, to be honest with you, which is a good thing. Yeah.
I just kind of want to keep like doing what I want to do. I'm very influenced by kind of what I'm listening to. So when I'm listening to a lot of country, I write a country song, I think just kind of being an agile storyteller, kind of pursuing what's important to me.
You have a song called, is it called The Reason?
Yes, yeah.
Yes, okay. I had a moment with that song earlier. I was when we sat on the porch earlier. I think I was saying I had a pretty hectic day today, and I felt like I hadn't like really kind of chilled. And like the whole time I was doing all these different things, I had all these other things on my mind, and I put on that song while I was kind of cleaning up, setting up over here for this. And, the first time was for the podcast, but then literally like my heart rate lowered, and there was some lines in there that were just so beautiful. And then I put it on a second time, and that one was just for me. It was that wasn't to prepare for the podcast. That was just because I was really, enjoying the soothing effect. Do you have the lyrics to that up somewhere?
I could probably find them. Yeah.
Could you read us those lyrics?
Read it like a poem.
Yeah.
Fun.
I'll do some of this.
Oh, wow, I've never done this ever. This is fun.
I didn't know that. So I went to a poetry slam by accident yesterday.
Fun. And
it was super cool. I was at a cafe discussing a podcast. Some people are nervous about doing a podcast, and they need to be like coaxed into it, and not even convinced, but they're like, what are we going to talk about? Like, give me a briefing. And then what ends up happening is that you do what would have been a perfect podcast.
Exactly.
And then you're recording the podcast the next time you see them, and then you're awkwardly trying to reenact the authentic conversation.
Or referencing a conversation that already happened.
Yeah.
Well, back when we talked. Last week.
Exactly.
It's like, we should have done it then. Yeah. I should just bring a Zoom recorder.
Yeah, totally.
So by the time we were done with that, a poetry slam had started in like the backyard of this cafe.
Very cool.
And I didn't know it was a competitive thing. Right? So like an
Sounds very capitalist. I'm just kidding.
I don't think they were collecting any money for it. I think they were doing
the competition aspect with poetry.
Is competition, I guess.
Yes. It is called a slam.
Well, yeah.
Sounds aggressive. Sounds aggressive, yeah. So capitalist poetry just doesn't ring the same, Sounds like a good album name, though.
Yeah.
I feel like Jeremy wasn't really talking about his salary or how he wants to like beat out his fellow employees for a raise or anything. So I'm going to give this one a thumbs down. But anyway, so yeah, I didn't know that slam poems or poetry is like a competitive thing, almost like a rap battle or
cool.
something like that. But it's so the way this one was structured is that every poet had a maximum of 3 minutes to read something. I think it's like unspoken that it should be something sort of fresh.
Okay.
One person did something. He said it was about a painting in the bathroom, and then he started making all of these references to like it was like this really serious metaphor of a mouse tasting the thing it wants most right as it's dying because it got caught in a trap. And I'm like, painting in the bath. And I was like, that's a drawing by Chris Chambers. It's like silly little cartoons that he does. I was like, it's like, is he calling that a painting? and not. And it was just like, so I told Chris that, and he's like, you're fucking with me. And then he's like 20 minutes later, he's like, I'm looking for video of this. And I'm like, it's out there. Keep looking. I saw a bunch of people recording. That was a tangent. What was I saying? Oh, slam poetry is a competitive thing. We're not, but they had people rate.
Whoa.
Like there's so it was a pretty packed audience, and then there were like 5 random audience members who had like whiteboards, and they would write a rating, and then the audience, and at the beginning they also conditioned the audience to like be louder. They're like, when someone's saying something you're really into, you go, and they're like, let's hear you say, And I was like, and she's like, no, I go, and then you can snap and stuff like that. And so like they got everyone used to like making noises right at the beginning. And then the person does their 3 minutes of poetry, and the people hold up their ratings. And then they encourage the audience to yell at the people rating them higher, or boo, or like not too high or whatever. I will say it was, it would have been fun, although sad for like the person on the receiving end of this if like someone just got like fucking trashed, but there did seem to be like a B+ threshold on these ratings. I don't think anyone got anything below an 8.5. Okay. Which, I mean, if you just know that 8.5 is the bottom, now you just know that you have, like a 15-point scale, and 8.5 is actually 0. Or this is how my brain would, especially if I was one of the performers. And it's just like, I got an 8.7, but that puts me basically in last place. That's a D- by this scale. So anyway, I asked to hear some of the lyrics from The Reason, if you would oblige. And long story short, I might go and snap, but I won't boo you.
Okay.
Or hiss. They also said you could hiss.
Yeah, I've never read my lyrics like a poem, like into a mic before, so this is gonna be fun. Okay, this is called The Reason. You see me as I want to be. You look at me as if you see a person much more beautiful than I. I want to drift away in you, your subtleties and how you move, to wander deep into the blue of you. I get lost in all that I don't know, because I'm scared of what could lie behind the door. I get lost in all that I don't know. I'm afraid of mistakes I made and making even more. Drawn far into the depths of you, so familiar like an old tattoo, and when we kiss, I could have sworn we've kissed before. So hard to fight the pull of tide, the wisdom that lives in your eyes. Can we take a breath and take a step inside? Can we trust in what we do know, because it's you that always feels like coming home? Can we get lost in what we do know, because it's you that makes me believe in things I've always wanted to believe in. I just needed a reason. The light and comfort that you bring, like Sunday and an early spring, a toss when we're not ready for the ball, The universe makes no mistakes at all. Can we trust in what we do know? Because it's you that always feels like coming home. Can we get lost in what we do know? Because you make me believe in things I've always wanted to believe in. I just needed a reason. That was fun.
Not an or a like. Nice job.
The first time all day.
I would have fucked that up. Like if those were my lyrics, I'd be like, skipping this part actually. Just like introvert problems, you know. That was amazing though.
Yeah, thanks. That was fun.
I love that. That's what was that? Was that music or lyrics first when you wrote that? Or together?
I've written so many songs at this point. I have to think back. Yeah, it was definitely like a bit of a turning point in like a new relationship, where you're kind of like scared to jump in and whatever. But yeah, it's just about like that kind of that like early moment of like, oh, we're gonna do this, aren't we? We're gonna just risk it all for love. But yeah, it's true. Like there's things like we all like really want to believe in. We've just never like been given a reason before. I think that one was kind of like music and lyrics like at the same time. The hook first, as it usually is.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's interesting if you have like good verses and then you go fishing for a hook.
Mm-hmm.
There's something really poetic about that, isn't there? Fishing for a hook. You picked up the mic?
Yeah.
Put it back down.
I wasn't necessarily going to say anything. I was just preparing. But
we all just looked at him.
To that. Yeah.
You got one thing I noticed is that like some people, they're like very, you know, I could tell by their attire that they're like, I mean also they were kind of sitting at the side of the stage, so obviously they're, you know, very immersed in the slam poetry thing, but they had this like layback type of snap where
I feel like the more wrist you get, the more bonus points you should get. Like if you're getting a lot of wrist from somebody with the snap, it's like, oh, extra point. Yeah, extra point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, see,
significant wrist.
When I heard something I liked, I just did this giddy little.
Yeah.
Some people can't snap though, which I feel maybe.
Which finger do you snap with? I snap with my ring finger.
Actually?
Oh yeah.
That's crazy.
I do a double sometime with like ring and middle.
No, I'm only middle.
I can a little bit, but yeah.
Wow. Oh, I've never tried that.
Like if I want to produce a lot of snaps.
Was there any of the middle school boy like that one?
Yeah, like yeah, when someone would insult someone back in the year 2002. Yeah. And everyone would go, oh,
damn, yeah. And then people would like get like start building either like a muscle or some kind of like cyst in their from doing that too much.
I didn't.
well,
Kelly said that's the secret to like his insane shredding technique.
He just did that all the time.
Well, he didn't say like he practiced by doing that, but he said like when you're picking a guitar at the insane speeds that he does,
true.
it's that same like wobbly wrist type thing.
Wrist, yeah.
Oh, look at that. All right, we've I think we're clearly out of stuff to talk about. The only thing left to do is for us to play us out. Would you like to say something about the songs now, or maybe sign off with, I mean, we talked about your music, we talked about Drop Rocket. What should people do to take action and follow along your musical journey, or maybe kickstart their own musical journey?
Yeah. Check out my music. If you like it, I'd love to hear from you. Follow me. I usually follow back. And yeah, if you're interested in Drop Rocket, check it out. It's droprocket.app. And I'm down to meet with anybody and everybody, do a little Zoomy call and show you around the app and help you get started.
That is another thing
free,
that we
so.
didn't mention, that all of the, the Drop Rockets intake does, people can book a consultation. So if they're like brand new, I've done enough of this where I've kind of like yourself created my own versions of these like release things for myself. So it all looked very familiar.
Totally.
But, if even let's put myself in the shoes of my 18-year-old self who's just trying to jam with his friends, and we're playing these like bar gigs or whatever. And, I would open that and probably feel pretty overwhelmed, but everyone's on Zoom now because we had to be. And, if you were going to school or work in the last 2 years, you were quite likely doing it over Zoom. So you're also including some consultations to get people to sort out their own Drop Rockets.
Yeah, absolutely. Doing free discovery calls right now with anybody and everybody who wants to learn about the app. Can show you around, help you get started. And then within the app, there's a way to book in with me. I love working one-on-one with people. So if anyone out there is looking for help with their artist business or creative business, I would love to work with you.
In terms of your social media, what's your like Instagrams for Drop Rocket and your personal?
Personal is all Elina Filice everywhere across the web. And Drop Rocket is under Red Vine socials right now. So Red Vine Records.
Okay, cool.
Oh, I thought it had its own Instagram.
Not right now. It's still just a product of the label right now. So.
Oh, I'm tripping then. Damn. I totally imagined it its own. Maybe I was just on the Red Vine one, and like it's so much about Drop Rocket right now.
Yeah, it is.
Okay. Cool. Any housekeeping for us? Email us. Why? I don't know. The Michael AM Radio Show at gmail.com. Follow us if you want. If I don't know if your RSS feed or Spotify's not working, we'll tell you over Instagram a few days later that an episode has dropped, in case you need a reminder like that. I don't know. What are we trying to promote on the show that people are already listening to?
We keep saying it, but if you do have an interesting guest in mind, please send them our way, or just link us to their whatever, Spotify or whatever they do. We're always looking for some different type of guest. I mean, we haven't talked to anybody who's been working on like doing music business like on this level, so it was very interesting to talk to you. But
yes, thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been an awesome chat.
Hooray. All right, let's get you set up to play some music.
Awesome. The first song I'm gonna play is called "Let's Get Lost." I released it last summer during Pride Month. It's kind of about the coming out experience, which can be a very obviously crazy emotional time. I think for a lot of queer people, who you are and who you love are very intertwined. So this song is kind of about finding yourself through loving someone else. Yeah, I hope you like it. I've actually never performed this acoustic before, so this is a first. Always remember you exactly like this. Time slow, suddenly we're alone on a crowded dance floor. Everything disappears when you hold me near. I'd go anywhere you ask me to, my dear. So do your parents know you kiss girls under neon lights at night? Can't even try to fight it, 'cause nothing feels quite like it. No, nothing feels quite like it, no. Let's get lost a little, 'cause I wanna be yours a little, and I'm falling in love, oh, just a little. So, let's get lost a little. Can we just stay here in this moment, far away from what the world makes it mean? Can it exist in what it is without the fear of what they think of me? What if I find myself through loving you? Be my truth, make me feel something real, something that feels right to me. Be my mirror so that I can really see myself. I'll try not to close my eyes. Let's get lost a little, 'cause I wanna be yours a little, and I'm falling in love, oh, just a little. So, let's get lost a little. Think of running and hide, steal away in the night from everything that's inside of me. Help me to be brave, find the peace that I crave, over the bridge to where freedom lies. 'Cause who I am is on the other side. Let's get lost a little, 'cause I wanna be yours a little, and I'm falling in love, oh, just a little. So, let's get lost a little. Let's get lost. Come on, let's get lost. Yeah, let's get lost. Oh, come on, let's get lost. Yeah, let's get lost. Oh, come on, let's get lost. 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 Thank you. Thank you. You can check that one out on Spotify. It sounds a lot like Stevie Wonder produced it on Spotify, but this one's a little more stripped back. I think it kind of works. Keep going. Keep it rolling. So this next one is also one that I've never played solo. So this one is another song I've never played solo. Yeah, I'm just playing some fun stuff for you guys. Last couple of years haven't been gigging a whole lot because of kind of moving around in COVID, so this was fun trying to pull out some songs for this set. This song's called Motorcycle, slightly based on a true story. My bicycle repair guy down the street from me, got talking to him one time and wrote this totally fictional story based on the small snippets of his life that he gave me. I wonder what he'd think if he ever heard it. But this song's called Motorcycle, and I hope you like it. Joey came down to Dublin about 20 years ago. Only planned on a couple of days, help out his friend in a bicycle store, but he knew as the Belfast sun faded over the hills he used to run, that she was gone forever. Years went by on the Emerald Isle, oh, we stayed at that bicycle store. His friend left and made a million selling furniture and kitchens. Joey looked on from afar, but oh, his friend said none of his money ever bought me love or fun. Said, you're the lucky one. His whole damn life spent fixing bikes. Yeah, he started to wonder why. Maybe he wanted something faster than two legs could pedal. A motorcycle caught his eye, but oh, he was too scared to go too fast down a road into the great unknown, past the lively store that he built on his own. Because if we go, then we go down together. We go down together. 1, 2, 3, 4. Riding on that motorcycle, riding into the sun. Riding on that motorcycle, 'cause he couldn't believe what life had the sun. Riding on that motorcycle, riding on that motorcycle, because all she wrote as she stood at the edge of the road is we go down together. We go down together. We go down together. We go down together. Do-wop-bop. Yeah. Keep going?
Hell yeah, keep going.
All right.
As much as you want.
All right, we'll take it down a notch. This next song is called The Compass. I've moved around a lot in my life, and this song is kind of about that, and I hope you like it. Send your love on the phone. Send me postcards to the places you go. Take a breath, nice and slow. Then you let it out and tell me there's no place like home. Tell me, where do I go when it feels like there's nothing but the road? And only you alone feel like home. Take your compass out. Does it point in one direction, or is it spinning round the globe? Searching high and low. No matter where I am, I feel there's somewhere else to go. Tell me, where do I go? How do I walk with the weight of my soul when only you alone feel like home? I was raised on the road. No, there's no going backwards, so onwards I go to the great unknown. Looking in from the outside, sometimes it gets cold. Tell me, where do I go? Seems like everyone else has got somewhere to go when they hit the road. When they get lonely, they can just go home. They know where to go when they're missing home. But only you alone. Yes, only you alone. Said only you alone feel like home. Thanks. So the last song I'm going to play is actually a very new one. Yeah, thanks again for having me, guys. It's been awesome. So this song's called Bury Me. Just a bit of a funny, quick story. So I had this old, Molson Canadian, just comfy shirt. And when I was packing to go out west, I couldn't find it. And I'm like, oh, yeah, whatever. So I'm on FaceTime with my girlfriend a couple weeks later, and she's fucking wearing it. And I'm like, that's my shirt. And she's like, oh, this old thing? I've had this forever. I'm like, so it became like a running joke between us. Just this conviction that I'm never going to get this shirt back because it's not mine. So one night she's like, if I die tonight, they're going to bury me in this shirt and you'll never get it back. So that's how the song started. And then it kind of became about like burying yourself in something. And yeah, you'll hear it. So this song is called Bury Me, and I hope you like it. So she said, fine, and we'll argue till we're both right about the shirt she sleeps in most nights. I know I stole it from my cousin. She swears she's had it for a billion years. And though I never see it coming, she keeps me smiling through the tears and the fears. So she said, bury me in this shirt that you got from the beer store. If I die tonight, you're never gonna get it back. Bury me in this shirt that you got in the 2-4. If I die tonight, you're never gonna get it back. You're never gonna get it back. You're never gonna get it back. And even across the island, I'm thinking about her eyes when she hides under the covers as I'm putting on my clothes for work. Dreaming about the days when we'll have a little bit of money. You'll start your salon and I'll write someone's favorite song, and the world is gonna see. Yeah, the world is gonna see what we see when we look at each other. So I said, bury me in this. I never thought I'd love with my eyes so open wide. Take my heart tonight, I'm never gonna want it back. Bury me in this. You never seem to be afraid, my dear. No, you never love in fear. Her love keeps me alive, 'cause I gotta see what she looks like at 65. You were right this time, I'm never gonna want it back. 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 Yeah, thank you. It's like my pop punk resurgence.
Yeah, it felt like Taking Back Sunday.
Yeah.
I don't know what the production is on that, but if you ever want to do like a live version with some drums and bass,
I'm super down.
Fuck out of that, Tim.
I'm super down.
oh, but,
I'm super down.
Please.
I don't really have like
Dude, I was just
music
like
friends here.
halftime drums and that like double chorus at the end and the big Travis Barker snare fill.
Yeah. There's a lot of like time. Well, it's just like halftime and double time, really. But yeah, I can
rent a like Fender jazz bass or P bass and just get that Mark Hoppus tone in.
I'm super down.
All right, sick.
I feel like it would kind of sound cool, like
Oh yeah.
drums, bass, guitar.